Welcome back to the Heart Sutra channel, everybody. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into chapter 17 of the Bhagavad Gita, the divisions of faith.
Yeah.
It's really one of those chapters that gets you thinking.
Yeah.
And hey, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. There's a lot more of these deep dives to come.
Definitely.
So you've been with us on this whole journey through the Gita. And we've talked about Dharma, that idea of duty,
right,
karma, the actions and reactions that shape our lives.
Yeah.
And the three gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. These qualities, these kind of colors that influence everything we do.
Yeah.
But in chapter 17, things get really, really specific.
And what's fascinating is this chapter goes beyond just defining these concepts.
Yeah.
It really dives into how these concepts manifest in our lives, specifically through our faith and action.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it starts off on this dramatic battlefield, Kurukshetra, with Arjuna in deep despair.
Yeah.
He's facing this moral dilemma,
Right.
a crisis of faith. And it's such a powerful metaphor for the internal battles that we all face.
Absolutely.
That feeling of being torn between what you want and what you know you should do.
Yeah, that's the human condition, isn't it?
It really is.
And what's interesting is that the Gita doesn't shy away from that struggle at all.
Yeah.
It addresses it head on.
And that's where this threefold division of faith comes in. The chapter classifies faith actions, food, even happiness into these three categories, Sattvic, Rajasic, and Tamasic.
Yeah.
So it's like even our beliefs, our very essence, are influenced by these gunas.
Yeah.
Let's break it down a bit.
Absolutely.
Let's start with faith.
Okay.
The Gita says, those with Sattvic faith worship the deities.
Yeah.
Those with Rajasic faith worship demons and yakshas. And those in Tamas worship ghosts and spirits.
Wow.
Okay, so right off the bat, we're dealing with some pretty intense imagery here.
Yeah.
But what's the deeper message here?
Right.
Is it as simple as saying some beliefs are good and some beliefs are bad?
It's not about labeling beliefs as good or bad. It's more about understanding the motivations and the outcomes that are associated with different types of faith.
Can you give us an example?
Let's take the example of Sattvic faith.
Okay.
The text says, those who are full of faith and who have subdued their senses steadfast in meditation always offer service to me. These are very dear to me.
So it's not just about who or what you believe in.
Right.
It's about the quality of your belief.
Absolutely.
The actions that stem from that belief.
Exactly. It's about cultivating a faith that is grounded in knowledge, understanding, and a deep connection to the divine.
Okay, I'm starting to get it.
Good.
Now let's talk about the Rajasic and Tamasic types of faith.
Okay.
What are the kind of defining characteristics of these?
Well, the chapter doesn't go into great detail, but it does offer some clues.
Okay.
For instance, it mentions that those with Rajasic faith are often driven by desires for power, wealth, or recognition. They may worship entities that they believe can grant them these worldly things.
Interesting.
And Tamasic faith, on the other hand, is often characterized by ignorance, superstition, and fear.
Okay.
It can manifest as blind faith in rituals or beliefs that offer no real spiritual benefit.
Okay, now this is starting to feel really relevant to modern life.
Oh, yeah.
Think about all the conspiracy theories, the cults,
Right.
the quick fix spiritual trends that promise instant enlightenment but lack any real depth.
It's everywhere.
It really is.
And it's easy to get caught up in it.
Yeah.
But the Gita offers us a way to discern between these different types of faith, to cultivate a belief system that truly nourishes our souls.
That brings us to actions, right?
Yes.
The chapter goes on to categorize actions based on these three gunas.
Yes, and this is where things get really practical.
Okay.
The Gita gives very specific examples of Sattvic, Rajasic, and Tamasic actions, and it's almost like a blueprint for making better choices in our everyday lives.
Okay, I'm all ears. Let's start with Sattvic actions.
Right.
What are those all about?
The Gita describes Sattvic actions as those that are performed with clarity, discipline, and a sense of detachment from the results.
Okay.
They are selfless acts driven by a desire to serve others and uphold Dharma.
Interesting. So it's not just about the action itself, it's about the intention behind it.
Exactly.
Can you give us an example?
Absolutely. Imagine someone who dedicates their life to helping others. Perhaps a doctor working in a war-torn region or a teacher who goes above and beyond to support their students.
Yeah.
They are not doing it for fame or fortune, but out of a genuine desire to make a difference.
That's a powerful example.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's contrast that with Rajasic actions.
Okay.
What are the defining characteristics of those?
Rajasic actions are often driven by ego ambition and a desire for recognition.
Okay.
They may be outwardly impressive,
Yeah.
but they lack that inner purity of intention.
So think about the entrepreneur who's obsessed with building a billion-dollar company. Not because they want to make the world a better place, but because they crave the power and status that come with it.
Yes, that's a good example.
Yeah.
The focus is on the external rewards, the fruits of their actions, rather than the intrinsic value of the act itself.
Okay, and what about Tamasic actions?
Well,
Those are probably the ones we want to avoid at all costs, right?
Yes, they are the least desirable type of actions.
Okay.
They are characterized by ignorance, delusion, and a disregard for consequences.
Okay.
They can be harmful to oneself and others.
So things like violence, theft, addiction, those all fall into this category.
Exactly. The Gita specifically mentions actions like gambling, intoxication, and cruel speech as examples of tamasic actions.
Okay, so this threefold division of actions is pretty eye-opening.
It is.
It really makes you question your own motivations, doesn't it?
It's a powerful tool for self-reflection.
Yeah.
And remember, the Gita isn't saying that we have to be perfect all the time.
Right.
It's about recognizing the influence of the gunas in our actions and striving to cultivate more sattvic qualities in our lives.
That's a great point. It's not about judgment. It's about awareness and growth.
Exactly.
And this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Because the chapter goes on to classify even our food choices based on these three gunas.
Really?
Who knew food could be so philosophical?
It's fascinating, isn't it?
It is.
The Gita suggests that the food we eat can actually influence our mental and spiritual states.
Wow.
It's not just about physical nourishment, it's about aligning our bodies with our spiritual aspirations.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Give us the rundown on Sattvic, Rajasic, and Tamasic foods.
Well, let's start with sattvic food.
Okay.
The Gita describes it as food that increases lifespan, purifies one's existence, gives strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction.
Okay, that sounds pretty amazing.
Yeah.
What kind of foods fall into this category?
The text mentions foods that are fresh, natural, and wholesome.
Okay.
Things like fruits, vegetables, grains, legumes, and dairy products that are obtained and prepared with care and respect.
So basically a healthy, balanced diet that nourishes both body and mind.
Exactly.
Got it. Now, what about Rajasic food?
Okay.
What's that all about?
Rajasic food is described as bitter, sour, salty, very hot, pungent, dry, and burning.
Okay, those are some pretty strong flavors.
Yeah.
What's the connection to the Rajasic quality?
Well, think about the effects of these foods.
Okay.
They tend to stimulate the senses, create agitation, and increase restlessness. They can fuel our passions and desires, but can also lead to imbalance.
Interesting. So it's not necessarily about saying these foods are bad,
Right.
but rather about being mindful of their effects on our mental and emotional states.
Exactly. Moderation and awareness are key.
Right.
Now, when it comes to tamasic food, the Gita doesn't hold back.
Oh, no.
It describes it as stale, tasteless, putrid, leftover, and impure.
Yuck. That doesn't sound appetizing at all.
No.
Why would anyone choose to eat Tamasic food?
Well, the Gita suggests that tamasic food can lead to dullness, lethargy, and even disease. It clouds the mind and hinders spiritual progress.
Okay, so this whole food classification system is pretty mind-blowing.
It is.
It's like our diet is a direct reflection of our inner state.
It's all connected.
And if we want to cultivate more sattvic qualities,
Yeah.
it makes sense to start with what we put into our bodies.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's all interconnected.
So what does this all mean for us in the modern world?
Right.
How can we apply this ancient wisdom to our busy, chaotic lives?
Well, the first step is awareness.
Okay.
The Gita is inviting us to pay attention to the choices we make, the beliefs we hold, the actions we take, and the food we consume.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing how these things are shaping our lives and our spiritual journeys.
That's a great point. It's not about judgment.
Right.
It's about observation.
Exactly.
And from there, it's about making conscious choices
Yes.
that align with our aspirations.
Absolutely.
If we want to cultivate more peace, clarity,
Yeah.
and purpose,
Right.
the Gita offers us a roadmap. This is powerful stuff.
It is.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah.
We'll dive deeper into the practical applications of this wisdom in the next part of our deep dive into Chapter 17.
Sounds good.
Stay tuned.
Welcome back to our exploration of Chapter 17 of the Bhagavad Gita.
We're unraveling the mysteries of the three gunas and how they shape our lives.
Yeah, from our faith to our actions and even our food choices.
Right. And now we're going to delve into another fascinating aspect of this chapter.
Okay.
The concept of austerity.
Austerity.
Okay, austerity. It's not exactly a word we hear every day.
Right.
What does it actually mean in the context of the Gita?
In the Gita, austerity refers to a conscious effort to discipline the body, mind, and senses.
So it's about self-control, right?
Yes.
Like resisting those tempting donuts when you're trying to eat healthy.
That's a great analogy. It's about choosing actions that align with our higher purpose,
Okay.
even when they require effort and discipline.
And of course, the Gita classifies austerity into three categories based on the gunas. Of course. Let's start with Sattvic austerity.
Okay.
What does that look like?
The Gita says, austerity of the body consists in worship of the Supreme Lord, the Brahmanas, the spiritual master and seniors like the father and mother, and in cleanliness, simplicity, celibacy, and nonviolence.
So it's not just about physical discipline.
Right.
It's also about cultivating qualities like respect, humility, and purity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about aligning our actions with a higher purpose,
Okay.
both internally and externally.
Now, what about Rajasic austerity?
Okay.
What are the motivations behind that?
The Gita describes Rajasic austerity as performed for the sake of gaining respect, honor, and reverence from others.
So it's more about outward appearances.
Yeah.
Seeking recognition for our efforts.
Right.
Rather than true inner transformation.
Precisely. It's about the ego's desire for validation and praise.
And Tamasic austerity. That sounds like something we want to avoid.
Well, the Gita says Tamasic austerity is performed out of foolishness with self-torture or to destroy or injure others.
Ouch. That's pretty intense. It
Yeah.
sounds more like self-sabotage
Yeah.
or even cruelty than any kind of spiritual practice.
It's a reminder that any action, even something intended as austerity,
Right.
can become distorted when it's driven by ignorance and ego.
Okay, so how do we know if our efforts at austerity are truly sattvic?
That's a good question.
What are some signs we should be looking for?
The Gita emphasizes that sattvic austerity is performed with a sense of detachment,
Okay.
without expectation of reward or recognition.
So it's about doing the right thing for its own sake,
Yes,
not for any personal gain.
exactly. It's about cultivating a pure intention and offering our efforts as a service to something greater than ourselves.
You know, this whole concept of austerity is really making me think about the choices we make every day.
Yeah.
It's not just about grand gestures.
Right.
It's about those small, consistent efforts to cultivate discipline and self-control in all areas of our lives.
Absolutely. It's about choosing to meditate instead of mindlessly scrolling through social media, opting for a healthy meal instead of indulging in junk food, speaking kindly to others even when we're feeling stress.
Those are great examples.
Right.
It's about aligning our actions with our highest aspirations,
Yes.
even in the mundane moments of everyday life.
And the beauty of it is that these small acts of self-discipline can have a ripple effect,
Yeah.
creating positive change in our inner world and the world around us.
Okay, I'm inspired, but let's be honest.
Okay.
Cultivating self-discipline is not always easy.
No, it's not.
We all struggle with temptation and distractions.
We do.
What advice does the Gita offer for navigating these challenges?
Well, the Gita emphasizes the importance of cultivating a steady mind, one that is not easily swayed by the pull of the senses.
Easier said than done, right?
It is.
How do we actually develop that kind of mental fortitude?
The Gita recommends practices like meditation mindfulness and studying spiritual texts.
So it's about training the mind,
Yes.
like an athlete training their body.
Exactly. It's about building mental muscles that allow us to resist distractions and stay focused on our goals.
This is fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
But let's shift gears a bit
Yep.
and talk about another key concept from chapter 17,
Right.
the idea of sacrifice.
Sacrifice.
This is a topic that often generates a lot of confusion and misunderstanding.
It does.
What does the Gita actually say about sacrifice?
Well, the Gita clarifies that true sacrifice is not about giving up things we enjoy
Oh.
or inflicting pain on ourselves.
Okay.
It's about offering our actions as a service to the divine.
It's about recognizing that everything we have,
Yes.
our talents,
Yeah.
our resources,
Mm-hmm.
even our challenges, are gifts from a higher power.
So it's a shift in perspective,
Yeah.
from a sense of ownership to a sense of stewardship.
Precisely. It's about recognizing that we are not the ultimate owners of anything,
Right.
but rather caretakers entrusted with using these gifts for a higher purpose.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this connects to the concept of surrender.
Yes.
We talked about earlier. It's about letting go of our ego's grip on control and aligning ourselves with the divine will.
Exactly. And the Gita suggests that this act of surrender, of offering our lives as a sacrifice to the divine, is the ultimate path to liberation.
It is.
Okay, I have to ask, what does sacrifice look like in practice? Can you give us some tangible examples?
Absolutely. It can be as simple as offering a prayer of gratitude before a meal, dedicating our work to a higher purpose, or using our resources to help those in need.
So it's about infusing our actions with a sense of sacredness.
Yes.
Of recognizing the divine presence in every aspect of our lives.
And the beauty of it is that these acts of sacrifice, no matter how small, can have a profound impact on our own hearts and the world around us.
This is powerful stuff.
Yeah.
It's making me rethink my whole approach to life.
It is.
What are some of the key takeaways you've gleaned from this chapter on sacrifice?
What resonates with me is the idea that sacrifice is not about deprivation, but about transformation. It's about shifting our focus from what we can get to what we can give.
That's a beautiful insight. It's about recognizing that true fulfillment comes not from accumulating possessions or achievements, but from aligning our lives with a higher purpose.
And that alignment, that surrender, is the ultimate path to liberation.
This is such a rich and complex topic, and we've only just begun to explore its depths. In the final part of our deep dive, we'll delve into the Gita's teachings on how to cultivate a truly Sattvic mindset and the ultimate goal of liberation.
Join us as we uncover more of the timeless wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita and discover how it can guide us towards a life of purpose, meaning, and true freedom.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been exploring Chapter 17 of the Bhagavad Gita, and it's been quite a journey.
It has. We've talked about faith actions, austerity, and sacrifice, all seen through the lens of the three gunas.
And now in this final part, we're going to bring it all together and explore what the Gita calls the yoga of the threefold faith.
This is where things get really interesting. The chapter kind of culminates with a description of three distinct paths, each aligned with one of the gunas.
I'm intrigued. Let's start with the path of Sattvic Faith.
Okay.
What does that entail?
The Gita describes those on this path as having faith in the deities, purity, straightforwardness, nonviolence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation, tranquility, aversion to fault-finding, compassion for all beings, freedom from covetousness, gentleness, modesty, steadiness, vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, cleanliness, freedom from envy and pride.
Wow, that's quite a list. It sounds like the path of Sattvic Faith is about cultivating a whole constellation of virtue.
It is. It's about aligning our thoughts, words, and actions with the highest principles of Dharma.
And what about the path of Rajasic Faith?
Okay.
What are the characteristics of those who follow this path?
The Gita says, those who are full of ostentation, pride, and arrogance, who are passionate, deceitful, violent, prone to fault-finding, and unsteady, know them to be of Rajasic Faith.
Yeah, those qualities are definitely less appealing. It sounds like this path is more about ego gratification than true spiritual growth.
Yeah, it's about seeking external validation and power rather than inner peace and wisdom.
And finally, the path of Tamasic Faith.
Okay.
What does that look like?
The Gita describes those on this path as wicked and haughty, faithless and deceitful, addicted to intoxicating drinks and meat, indolent, foolish, and always depressed.
Okay, that's a pretty bleak picture. It sounds like this path leads to darkness and suffering.
It does. It's about succumbing to our lower impulses and ignoring the voice of our higher selves.
So these three paths represent three very different ways of approaching life and spirituality.
Right.
How do we know which path we're on?
The Gita suggests that our actions, our motivations, and our desires reveal the quality of our faith.
It's like looking in a mirror.
Yeah.
Our choices reflect our inner state.
Exactly. And the good news is we have the power to choose a different path, to cultivate more Sattvic qualities, and move towards a life of greater purpose and meaning.
So how do we do that? What are some practical steps we can take to cultivate a Sattvic mindset and align ourselves with the path of true spiritual growth?
The Gita offers a wealth of guidance. It emphasizes the importance of self-discipline, meditation, mindfulness, and the study of spiritual texts.
So it's about training the mind and cultivating a deeper connection to our inner selves.
Exactly. And it's also about aligning our actions with our highest aspirations, serving others, and upholding Dharma.
This is such a powerful message. It's about recognizing that we have a choice in every moment to act from a place of love or fear, wisdom, or ignorance.
Absolutely. And those choices collectively shape the world we live in.
This deep dive into Chapter 17 of the Bhagavad Gita has been truly transformative. It's given us a framework for understanding the forces that shape our lives and a roadmap for navigating the path towards greater peace, purpose, and liberation.
And remember, this is just the beginning of the journey. The wisdom of the Gita is a lifelong study, a constant source of guidance and inspiration.
So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep striving to align your life with the highest truth. Until next time, may your journey be filled with peace, clarity, and a deep connection to the divine.